Good morning, guys. It is February 12th, and oh, I was going to say it's someone's birthday today. I had forgotten someone, but I think I remember what it is. February 12th. Yep, yep, I do. It's a date from my past. Anyway, the scripture references Exodus 20. I'll tell you what the date is. It is the date that a close friend of mine was killed in a car accident when I was 2019. When I was 19 years old. 20 years old, I was 20. And anyway, it's interesting that year after year, when February 12th comes back, I remember that. Um, Sorry to lay that on you. Sorry, Exodus 20. I think it's good to remember things, though. Reminds us when we look at our gray hair that God has blessed us with age, with life, when many others were not blessed with that same longevity. So anyway, sorry, back to the passage. Exodus 20:19. They said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die. This is a story of the Israelites. They've approached Mount Sinai. God's going to give them the law. He calls Moses up. He comes down in thunder and dark clouds, and covers the mountain, says that the people can only come to the base. They can't come any further. He calls Moses up to give him the law, but the people are supposed to stay around the bottom of the mountain. And when Moses returns with the law, he gives them the law, and when the people saw, I'm going to read a couple verses prior to that. When the people saw the thunder and lightning and heard the trumpet and saw the mountain in smoke, they trembled with fear, which was kind of the point. God was trying to make them a little fearful. He wanted to produce in them this sense of awe, and it did. But they stayed off at a distance and said to Moses, now here's the difference between what God wanted the intended result to be, and what actually happened. They stayed at a distance and said to Moses, Speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but do not have God speak to us, or we will die. And so that's what Chambers is keen in on here. He's saying we need to be obedient. We need to have a sense of reverence. To have that sense of reverence, we need to be close, and we sometimes we push God away at a distance so that we won't have that sense of awe or fear, so that disobedience doesn't feel quite so in his face, if you will. And he starts with saying we don't consciously disobey God, we simply do not heed him. We don't come close. We don't come close enough. And while the people could only, in the Old Testament, the Israelites could only come so close, they were supposed to listen, and they were supposed to heed the law. And instead, what they said was, you just tell us. Moses, you tell us what to do. And it's what we do today a lot of times. Well, if we're lucky, we have people say, preacher, priest, counselor, you tell me what to do. I don't want to ask God what to do. That's a little too scary, because if I disobey him directly, his direct orders, his direct law, his direct commands, then I'm throwing something in the face of God. If I disobey you as a counselor, a teacher, a preacher, a priest, I'm okay with that. I'm just disobeying a man. Chambers expounds on a little bit in the second verse, and he says, we like to listen to the second paragraph. We like to listen to personal testimonies, but we do not desire that God himself should speak to us. We know that if God does speak, either the thing must be done, or we must tell God we will not obey him. Disobeying man is one thing, but disobeying the voice of God is another entirely. And that's what happens with the Israelites. Moses sees how profound the law is, how profound the voice of God is in his life, but Moses doesn't, or the people don't see the same thing. They don't have that same relationship, obviously, with God, because they disobey Moses again and again. They think when they disobey Moses, they're not disobeying the voice of God, but in essence, they are. And Chambers ends it with this. When I do hear him, the humiliation I've put on him comes back to me, back on me. Lord, why was I so dull and so obstinate? And so I think the question or the challenge I would give to you today is, do you hear the voice of God and not just man? Is it just the revelations that God has given to others that you're hearing, and that's the only thing that you're responsible to? Or is it God himself speaking to you? And by the way, through his word, God himself speaking to you, and that's what he did with the Israelites. He gave them the law. But they just desired to have Moses talk to them. They didn't want to listen to God. And so I would say, are you hearing God today? And are you willing to take on the responsibility of that and say, and I'm speaking to myself too, if I disobey, I'm disobeying the voice of God, not just man. If I disobey what's in this word, I'm disobeying God himself directly. So anyway, not to lay something too heavy on you there, but I appreciate you guys. You guys, the ones that watch this, I know who you are, and I appreciate you. And I pray today that you'd hear the voice of God.